Awesome.
Okay, so if we could just find a comfortable way to hold it. And we're recording now.
All right,
So
we're
any way you
recording.
can hold it that makes your arm not super tired.
Okay, this is good, I
You'll
think.
be good. Cool.
All right. Hi, Kat.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Brian.
Hello,
I
Brian.
think we met before on the remote arts thing that we were doing over quarantine.
We did, and we met in person, I think,
At the museum.
Oh, yeah, holy
my
shit.
last few shifts at the,
Oh,
at the
yeah.
museum, yeah.
That was fun. Are they back open now, or?
I think so. I left before they reopened. Like, it was kind of crazy because I left, and right after they left, they, like, closed everything down. I was like,
Oh, wow.
Damn.
You were the backbone.
It was.
Oh, that's nuts. Huh. Well, so what are you doing now?
So I'm actually just doing school right now. I did have a job elsewhere for a little bit. I was working at a warehouse for razors.
Nice.
But it was too far from home.
Yeah.
I didn't like the commute. So
Fair.
my mom was like, okay, don't worry about it. Like, just focus on school, and then, like, you can get a part-time job in the meantime. But, since of COVID, it's been really hard to find jobs.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I feel that. I was looking for a job.
I know you feel that too.
I was looking for a job a few months ago, and I put out literally like 65 applications, and I only heard back from one place.
Oh my god.
Okay.
It was horrible.
Brutal out there.
I know.
Wow.
But so you are in school for art, right? Are you an arts major, fine arts major?
I'm trying to be. Right now, it says that I'm liberal arts, but I put in applications saying I want to change my major. I haven't
awesome.
heard back from them.
Are you?
Yeah.
What school are you at again?
Oh, I'm going to Bunker Hill.
Awesome. That's really cool. I think I knew that actually, because we were talking about community college before.
Oh, yeah. It was just, like, the most accessible school for me, and I don't really have any complaints with my current professors.
Yeah.
So,
That's
yeah.
great.
Thank you.
Yeah, when I went to Quincy, I had a really good time. Community colleges, I love community colleges. They get a bad rep, but they shouldn't really.
They really shouldn't. I think, well, at least from my experience, I've felt like more part of, like, the community from community colleges. I don't know if that's just me, maybe.
Yeah.
Some people just like to, like, get in and get out and, like, fuck it, like, I'll just transfer.
Yeah.
But I don't know, for some reason I feel most comfortable there.
I did too when I was there. I wasn't at Bunker, obviously, but same experience.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you've been there for a little while now, right? Are you a sophomore now?
Oh, no. Man. 2019 is when I went back to school in the spring. So I guess that does make me a sophomore, but I'm taking classes really slowly just because when I was working at the museum, I was full-time.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a lot of opportunities to, like, really focus on school, so I'd only have, like, 2 classes,
That makes sense.
a semester.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. What classes are you in right now? I bought a painting from you that was from an acrylic painting class, right?
It was a still life, wasn't it? Oh, yeah, it's a really nice piece.
Thank you. I was really proud of that one, too. It was really hard for me to let go.
Oh.
But I'm so happy that you guys love it just as much as I do, so thanks for buying it from me.
No, yeah, awesome. I'm very glad you sold it to me.
The classes that I'm taking now currently is painting concepts. It's the class that's right after the painting class I had before, which is like the intro into acrylic painting.
Nice.
And now we're just focusing on our compositions, essentially.
Oh, that's fun. Well, that can be grueling, but...
It's so grueling. I think my professor, like, he's an abstract artist, and I don't really have a lot of... I don't have a lot of, like, work there. Like, I don't really know it that well.
Yeah.
So, it's definitely challenging, but I'm not, like, closed to the idea of trying something different, so.
Is it like abstract composition?
Kind of, yeah. Like, currently he wants us to, like, trace shapes in our canvas, move them around in different ways, make them bigger, make them smaller, and just play around with, like, how how you want other people to see it. Like, what's going to be emphasized? Is it going to be texture? Is it going to be the color? You know, so on and so forth. So
nice.
Yeah.
That sounds mind-bending.
It's very mind-bending because I've never really exercised my brain in that way.
Yeah.
I think I've always, like, had the thought of, like, okay, like, I want to do this, I want to do that. Like, I don't really think about why I want to do it.
Yeah.
So, in a way, it kind of, like, trains or exercises your brain to think about why you want this to happen.
Yeah, kind of honing your skill set a little bit more, like using them as tools or building blocks to get to what you want versus just letting it happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh. That's really interesting. So to back up a little bit, though, just for people that haven't seen your work yet, you do a lot of figurative and representational work, right?
I do, yeah. A lot of it is very, like, 2D. People will relate it to, you know, anime or cartoons in that sense. And I could say, yeah, that's definitely, like, what I like to do and what I'm most comfortable with.
Are you inspired by kind of animation or different, like, TV story media?
Definitely. Let's see. What am I currently watching? I recently watched Craig of the Creek. It was really, really great. It's really great. Before, when I was really young, when I first got into, like, anime and stuff, you know, I think before Adult Swim was too crazy.
Yeah.
Like, Inuyasha would just play at, like, 5 a.m.
I remember.
You know, and I would just, I would stay up, like, late at night just to watch it, you know, Detective Conan, stuff like that, like, very heavily inspired by, you know, anime, and I think that's kind of, like, helped me also want to grow out of doing that stuff, too.
Yeah. That's cool.
I think that's a really interesting thing, too, because, like, I don't know if... I'm assuming we're in the same age range of just early to mid-20s, but it seems like so many people just I guess, this age group, like, that's, like, an interesting shared memory so many people have of, like, 2 a.m. Adult Swim storylines of animes that we're, like, not even connected to because, like, there's no way to watch them, like, chronologically. Because they just randomly air in the dead of night all the time.
Yeah, and you just feel like, fuck it, like, I can't sleep, you know, like, my parents tell me to go to bed, I'm not going to go to bed.
It's interesting.
I watch my cartoons, you know, like, watch, like, Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, Samurai Champloo and, like, all this kinds of stuff, you know, and it is really crazy how, like you said, in our range, our age range, that we can all relate to that, because now it's become more like the norm, whereas before, not so much. Yeah. And I think when I was younger, when I was getting really into anime, like, I was considered, like, weird or, like, nerdy or, like, oh, you're just an otaku. But now everyone's just out in the open, like, even in music and shit, just, like,
yeah.
You know, yeah, like, I see Goku, like, everywhere now.
I see Naruto
it's
grip
so
tape at
crazy.
skate parks often.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you find that your figures and the portraits and things that you draw, do you find them inspired by those characters in some ways, or?
I think in some ways, yeah. I think, like, a general idea or the appreciation of cartoons and anime. I've always loved, like, when I was younger, a lot of people like to watch, like, what's that show? Like, Full House.
Oh my gosh,
you know,
yeah.
They're really related to, like, like, people experiences and children experiences, but I couldn't relate to it in that way. I would watch, like, Samurai Jack,
yeah.
You know, like Dexter's Laboratory, you know, that kind of stuff. And that just, I don't know, I just love that so much more, and I think that really did inspire me in a lot of ways how my work is now.
Do you do a lot of, I know I've seen a couple of pieces that you've done like this, like storyboarding kind of, or like comic strips? Do you do a lot of work that has kind of a narrative like that?
Kind of. I think I exercised that more when Inktober was, like, a thing at the time. Like,
yeah.
I really love storytelling. I'm not really confident in telling myself that I'm an artist, but I can definitely tell you I love to storytell. Yeah. And the best way I can storytell is to, you know, show you visually. And, yeah, that's, you know, doing comics in that way and storyboarding is just something that I love to do.
That's awesome. Oh, that's really interesting. I feel like that's so challenging. Like, I've tried to do that before, and I think drawing and making one scene is not, I mean, it's not easy, but it's something that I'm pretty well versed in. But I have so much respect for being able to tell a whole story through visuals. That's really difficult for those who maybe haven't tried.
I never really thought that, you know, other artists would see it differently. I kind of just assumed everyone would have the same way of going about showing their piece. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. We've been having a lot of conversations like that recently. Brian and I have
about storytelling?
Well, that too, but thinking about how trying to wrap your head around the fact that other people that make art every day aren't coming from the same kind of place as you are necessarily. Like, we've been making art together for a year and didn't even realize until recently that we have really different art making styles, and the ways that we work together, our studio time is so different that we actually haven't been doing it in the same studio recently.
Even the way that, because that was a thing too, that when we started making art together, we wouldn't like clash, but we would have misunderstandings a lot.
Yeah, I didn't know why.
What we even meant, because I feel like for me, a lot of the things that my starting point, sometimes I think about commodifying things and making things into products without realizing I am
interesting
a lot, and I feel like you have more of a more artistic integrity, even, where you're
that's a weird way to put it,
I don't mean like to like rag on myself, but even like more art for art's sake, where sometimes I'm like, well, what's the point or something. I don't know,
that's a skill set though, and it's interesting. Like, I don't think anybody's way of doing anything is better or worse, because I think we all have different backgrounds and different reasons why we're making art. But it's just funny when you were saying that, because I think storytelling and being able to do that through a visual narrative is a huge strength and something that I would have to go out of my way to learn how to do. And when you're saying commodifying your work or making it for an audience or keeping an audience in mind, that is, again, a skill set that I don't necessarily have. But as far as, like, people tell me all the time that it's crazy that I can do, like, emotional expression or, like, work through problems with my work, but that's really the only way that I know how to do it.
Right.
So it's really interesting hearing other people's, like, reasons for art making and, like, how they got into it and stuff.
Yeah. Do you think that you could tell us, like, about any narratives in particular, or I guess stories that you've been trying to tell or that you have told through your art at this point already? Like, do you do like fictional things or more autobiographical?
Definitely more fictional things. I don't know. I'm very much like such a child at heart. Like, I really, that's one of the reasons why I could watch Craig of the Creek like so religiously. One, because like it's just fucking awesome all around, and then two, you know, like it kind of like gets you to relate to that inner child again, like makes you feel that, and I want to express that too within my art. So like, for example, in Inktober, like I really love to tell like really spooky, weird shit. I just love scary stuff, and I can encapsulate it in those pieces that way.
That's awesome.
I think, I don't know, another emotional sense, I did a piece that had to do with how I saw myself and how I was trying to live through trauma. It was, I don't know if you guys had seen it, but it's a 3-section piece. It comes in a series. It's a girl and her head is open. Mm-hmm. And at the top of her head, or what's sprouting from her head, are these 3 really ugly flowers.
Oh my gosh, yes. You messaged me about this piece. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that
one. It was actually, like, really hard to make, you know, and that's why, like, I commend you so much for being able to express your art, like, emotionally, because that's something that I feel like I struggle so much with. Like, the way I planned it out was just like, okay, how do I go about this? Like, I went through so many steps of thinking how to go about it, whereas I think it's a lot easier for you because you're so in tune with, like, your emotions. Does that make sense?
I hear what you're saying. It's definitely not easy for me either, but
it seems easy. Sorry.
I appreciate that.
Well, I definitely think that there's a lot of, I feel like there can be there's definitely more than 2, but kind of at hand 2 schools of thoughts with self-expression or emotional expression, where there are a lot of people that do it with their own stories and their own body as like a reference point, and there are a lot of people that do it through allegory and through fiction, you know.
Yeah
Which I think both are definitely very difficult in their own right, and both are really beautiful as well. You know, I think even the way that we understand ourselves, and like you talking about animes and different cartoons growing up watching those, like we understand ourselves through stories, whether they're true or not, you know? So.
Yeah, and that's kind of what you were doing with that, the triptych you're talking about. Like, that was a character, but it was representational of you and how you were feeling at the time, right?
Yes, yeah. It was, I was just, I was going some family issues where I felt I had to speak my truth and tell my family that they were mentally, like, abusing me over the years.
Yeah.
And it was, like, that turning point that I was like, okay, like, I don't want to feel that anymore, you know?
Yeah.
And those are what the flowers represent, you know, because your parents and your family, they kind of plant the seeds within you, you know, to see you grow and to help you grow. But the way that they were going about it is what made it so toxic for me and how I viewed myself. So that's why they look, the flowers themselves look really creepy.
Yeah.
Because, like, you assume that they're there to help you. They love you. But, you know, sometimes the things that they do to you isn't always, like, so helpful like you think it is.
Yeah. And then how does that piece, I already know the answer to this, but for the listeners, what are the other two parts of that 3-piece series?
The other two pieces, the second piece is the flowers themselves are being yanked from this hand that's coming out of this girl's head. They're like, you know, what is this? What's disturbing? You know, what I'm trying to do to this person. And the third piece was them getting their shit kicked out of them. And my inner self essentially, like, coming out to comfort my outer self.
That's
beautiful.
beautiful.
Being able to say, you know, thank you for loving me. Thank you for recognizing that these things are really hurtful, you know, and that you just want to protect yourself, you know, and love yourself more.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's so powerful to know, like, what was behind that piece, too. Because I thought they were beautiful anyway, like, standalone as art pieces. But it's so interesting to think about that as a celebration of self-protection, in a way. Especially where it can be really scary to reject people that maybe love you but are loving you in the wrong kind of way, or in a way that disregards your autonomy, maybe. And kind of advocating for yourself and not knowing how that's going to work out, and having it turn into something beautiful and being stronger for it is an incredible feeling.
Yeah, definitely. I'm very proud of that one.
Yeah. It's a beautiful way to portray that.
Yeah, it's definitely an elegant way to do it too, because, like, I don't know. I think that it takes definitely a true artistic mind to, like, I guess, see it and that kind of, like, even the allegory with the flowers and picking them and these different characters involved. Like, I just think it's like, I just always I feel like when I want to depict something painful like that, or something from my own life, sometimes I feel like I might be inclined to depict it literally and not really through allegory. So I just think it's like visual allegory like that is a very beautiful and interesting, I guess, choice.
Yeah.
And also just kind of like botanical figurative art as well. Those two fused together is a very interesting thing to me.
Yeah.
Right now, because I don't really do that, but when people do that, I think it's really cool.
I think it's really neat too, combining something as beautiful as flowers, or the imagery as flowers, with kind of body horror of, like, them coming out of someone's head, or, like, you know what I mean? Like, that kind of duality of something that would, you know, if it was a literal representation, be really scary to look at.
Yeah.
It really happened.
Yeah. So that's really cool. Interesting. That's a lot. I have a lot of things I'm thinking right now.
I mean, if you have any other questions about it, you can feel free to ask me.
Yeah. And I just wanted to also say, would we be able to put that on the Instagram to go with this recording, just so whoever's listening could see it quickly and reference it?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
We'll
totally fine with
we'll
that.
make it the cover.
Yeah.
The cover for the episode.
Perfect.
Cool.
So what about when you were saying that you're trying to, as you're working through school and kind of building your skill set a little more, steer away from things that are more kind of cartoonish or like influenced by anime? What things do you think you're kind of putting by the wayside, and which direction do you think you're trying to move into?
I think what I'm trying to put on the wayside is that, I feel like now there's so many resources to just kind of fall into the same form of anime. I think a lot more often, like especially in DeviantArt and like on Instagram, that it's almost very similar formulas to everything. We're inspired by each other all the time, but some people forget to differentiate themselves from others.
That's true.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So I think I want to be more distinct in like what my style is compared to someone else's. And that's why I think it was really good for me to go to school. Cause I've never done acrylic painting before. I've never painted a wine bottle or worried about the dimensions of an apple, you know? But then being able to like do that, like I have the ability to do that, and I can put that in what I already know, kind of thing, and like fuse it together, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that definitely does. I think in past episodes I've said that I hated art school, and I think part of that was true, but I think I just was really resistant to a lot of it because I had been painting for a little while, so I didn't want to paint wine bottles. But it is so important to just kind of force yourself to go through those learning curves, because once you have that skill set, like maybe you aren't going to paint bottles and apples in the future, but you can use that same information to like visually measure the circumference of someone's face, or like apply that to something else that you do want to do, and using that skill set in a way that is maybe more applicable to your work and your message. So
yeah, I definitely think it's like a confidence thing too, because I mean, just being able to look at just something in the world and to just draw it, in muscle memory, and just I don't know, and accurately too. I feel like learning technical skills and things like that are just, I feel like when I learned them, it just empowered me, because I felt like I had a license to depict these things. And
Right.
you know what I mean? Like I was allowed to because I could do it, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts, I guess, about, I guess even, I don't know, even if it's in preference, like realism versus things that are more expressive, or do you think, well, actually, no, a better question, I think, do you think that learning technical skills is really important? Because you've said that you're doing it just for your own sake, for your own art. But like, would you say somebody starting out, like, what am I trying to say? Help me out here. Like,
I think I know what you mean. Like, is it essential?
Yeah.
Essentially, like,
Yeah,
is
I
it
guess
essential
so.
to
That's
learn?
a good word.
Like, for everyone to go to school and learn these things. And I guess I'm kind of like in between that as well. I think it really depends on what works for you as a person.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I didn't take an art class until I think a semester or two ago. 2019 was the very first time I ever took an art class in my life.
Wow.
I've never taken an art class before, and I realized how much I really needed it, because even though I was like self-teaching myself, I still felt very lost. And it's because I'm the type of person that needs guidance. I need someone to be strict on me. Whereas if there wasn't anyone to be strict on me, hell is loose for me. Whereas other people who are self-taught, like, they've taught themselves self-discipline. They have the confidence to do so. Whereas for myself, like, I didn't really feel confident for a very long time. And I remember when I was trying to show an art teacher my art piece in the 6th grade, I wanted to enter it in the contest that we had. She was like, "That's not art. It's just a formula of lines." and that really hurt me.
That's such an awful thing to say.
Teacher saying that. Her name's Miss Herndon. Shout out to you. No, she's fine. Like, I think I understand, like, what she meant in that way. You know, like, it could just be continuously repetitive, but also, you know, to say that to someone so young, like, you're also hurting their confidence.
Yeah, like, there's nicer ways to get your point across.
Definitely. But, yeah, that made me really afraid to do any art classes in high school, so I never pursued it, and I just thought of it as a hobby, you know? Yeah. But yeah, like, I really missed out. I regret not doing that in high school, because I think it would have really helped me be more confident in my art, and I don't think it would have taken this long, you know, hadn't I done that before, for me to be confident now.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
What do you think led you to, like, do you think there was a point where you realized that you didn't have that confidence and that you wanted to have it? Yes,
definitely. All the more reason why I felt so compelled to going to school. You know, it was also the fact that any of my friends that came to see my art, they were always like, wow, you're really good. Wow, you're really awesome. You know, I really enjoy seeing your work. And I think to a point, I always really appreciate it, but it didn't always feel real to me. And I think it's because I needed someone to critique my work. I needed colleagues to tell me, like, hey, like, this line you fucked up on, or like, hey, like, you know, this color could be this color instead to show that, you know, this and that kind of stuff.
I remember times in my life where somebody would compliment me, and even if I knew that they meant it, like, I would think something evil, like, you're only saying that because you don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, I definitely feel that. Like, sometimes you're just saying that just to make me feel better. I don't really know if you care about my work or not, you know?
Yeah, and that critique can, even if it is painful at times or is harsh, it's the person is respecting your work because they're actually looking at it as a legitimate piece of art that is worthy of critique.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
And another thing that's true, too, is, like,
go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, every artist is worthy of critique, too. Like, there's nobody who... I think, honestly, I don't know if we mentioned this, actually, but Kat and I met because we worked together at the Museum of Fine Arts before. And something that we used to talk about, like, me and you and other people, too, is critiquing the artists that were in the galleries. And it's like, if they are not perfect, how can you expect at 22 or 25 or whatever to have work that nobody can say a bad thing about? Like, if somebody looks at my work and they're like, this is perfect, there's nothing that I want changed, like, I couldn't think of anything better, they're probably just being nice. But that doesn't further my career at all. That doesn't tell me what I need to work on, you know?
Interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's why, like, I loved, like, going to school. Like, I also took a class at SMFA where I didn't really get any credits from, but being able to be a part of that space and critique each other, you know, that made me feel less shy or scared about getting criticism. Because I think when I was younger, being told, like, you're good at everything or, like, good at this, like, so many times you start to wonder, like, you know, will I be okay with getting criticism in the future? Like, what if I'm so used to people telling me, like, this is great, this is great, this is great, that I can't accept when I reach criticism?
That's a great point, yeah. Because at that point, that's just when you've plateaued, I guess. Because if there's nothing to work on. Yeah. So what would you say, since you started school somewhat recently, how do you feel like your work has changed and, like, the way that you make work has changed since then?
I definitely pay more attention to my forms now. I don't think I had that in the past, or I was too afraid to look at what I needed to work on. For example, hands. I fucking hate drawing hands. Everyone has that struggle, right? But when I did a figure drawing class last semester, it really helped me be more confident that I want to do that and practice it. Doing a lot of, like, figure drawing has really helped me be more comfortable in seeing references. And you really can't, like, draw anything without a reference. Yeah. You know? Like, I guess that's just me. I don't know if that's a common thing to say, but I can't do it without a reference. I have to see it in order to know what I'm talking about and for other people to understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I feel the same way. Even if it's something that I'm drawing without a reference in front of me, I have a reference memorized, or I'm referring to something that I've seen before that I'm thinking about in my brain.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've heard people talk about, I think I read this somewhere, I can't remember my source exactly, but it was, somebody was talking about how when you see somebody who's drawing faces, or a portrait drawing or a painting, like, no matter what, you can tell which faces in a painting were actual models and had real references versus a painting where the artist invented a face. Do you know what I mean? It's like some Greek statues or something, or old painting, Renaissance stuff. You can clearly see some of them were made from models, and some of them, like, there weren't men walking around with block foreheads and perfect angular noses and tiny curly hair all the way to their head. Like, nobody looked like that. They were just making male faces.
Yeah. Just
drawing these whatever, you know what I mean? So it's kind of interesting, because whether you can draw with a reference or not, if you actually use a reference, your pieces, for my taste, I think, have so much more life when it's made from a real face.
I agree with that, just because, you know, our faces aren't meant to be symmetrical. Whereas if, you know, you go back to seeing all those statues from, like, 1400s, 1600s, like, European art and stuff, like, they're very symmetrical, and you're like, is that possible? You know? It almost doesn't really feel that real.
Yeah.
And yeah, I definitely agree with you. Like, it breathes more life when you're taking reference to something that is already there.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, I've made paintings I've had series of paintings in the past where before I learned what we're talking about right now, and before I shared this opinion with you two, I would make paintings, and people used to tell me that they liked my paintings of mannequins. And I would roll with it. I'd be like, yeah, they're but I didn't really know what they meant for a long time, and I realized it was because I was painting faces with no references, and they looked like plastic people wearing masks or something, which ended up having its own, like, creepy narrative and pathos and cool. Like, it was like a fun series, I guess, but I realized a while later that I was accidentally painting mannequin people that didn't and it was not what I intended. So in retrospect, I realized, like, oh shit, like, I had some learning to do.
Yeah.
But it worked out. I rolled with it. I just owned it.
Well, it's interesting, because I feel like what both of you guys are sort of talking about is not necessarily that art, because when you were talking about whether it's crucial or imperative to have this kind of practice, technical skill, I don't think that it is, in the sense of you can still create emotional artwork or artwork that's worth something, but you're more in control of what you're creating if you have tools.
Yeah, it's like a singer. Like, there are singers that can do everything from pop to opera to whatever, but they would never be able to do that if they weren't a professional singer. Like, people who just yell or make kind of punk stuff or whatever, they're trapped in whatever genre they're comfortable with. But somebody who truly understands their craft can hit any range and blend right in to any genre.
That's true.
So that's actually an interesting thing to talk about with visual art, because there's also such an emphasis on originality and style.
Yeah.
That is such, like, a coveted thing, to have your own style.
Yeah.
An original style, but how
can you do that if you don't have technical skill to get you there?
Yeah, and technical skill. There are a lot of people that could. That's kind of an interesting thing, because learning technical skill is a big part of that is copying real life or copying drawings.
Yeah.
So I could see why, if somebody felt insecure or like a desire to be original or different, they might end up accidentally feeling an aversion to technical skill.
I've been there.
Huh.
For sure.
Wow.
Huh.
Damn, yeah, I've been there as well.
Interesting. So let's backtrack a little bit, because on that note, I feel like we're just jumping right into the philosophical here. We haven't. Yeah. I want to touch the notes on background too, and talk more about the nuts and bolts of this. So you're saying you were self-taught for a really long time, like up until 2019. When did it stop being a thing where you were kind of absorbing other sources and you started kind of working and making your own, like, producing pieces, I guess, even if you didn't consider them pieces yet?
I think It was right before I think it was right before I got hired at the museum. I got into watercolor for a little bit, and I was like, man, I want to try this. I like this. And then, yeah, I was doing pieces of people, and I was feeling more confident. Like, I told some people on Instagram, like, hey, like, if you want me to do a portrait of you in a way, like, I can do that for you. And you can see that on Kapikawa, the very first, if you scroll all the way to the bottom. Those are, like, my very first ideas of pieces.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. So is that, like, 2018-ish?
I don't know. Well, definitely, yeah. I think so, because these were uploaded in 2019, but I had these pictures way before
Oh, okay.
Before then.
That's really cool, because I know when I first started hanging out with you, I know you were doing a lot of digital art, too, and that was a new medium for you at the time. But it's so crazy. I feel like I say this to you all the time, but whenever, like, when we were, like, meeting up at my house for a little while for Virago and doing art things, like, Kat would come, or you would come and be like, I just started this new medium, and you'd show us this piece, and it was fucking amazing. Like, how did you do that? Do you feel like it's easy for you to be kind of versatile with different things, or, like, are you having difficulties going through, like, trying acrylic or oil or something? Like, is that weird, stepping to different mediums, or is it kind of the same carryover?
I think it's the same carryover. Like, I get so excited. Like, I normally don't really push myself out of my comfort zone, but when I do, like, I end up just loving it.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same with, like, acrylic. Like, although I am really lazy sometimes to painting acrylic, because I just hate having to clean my brushes all the fucking time.
Oh, I never clean my brushes. I buy new ones.
When I get into that space, even just doing, you know, I think my most recent piece was the pink apples. Like, that was really, I look back, like, I take a step back from what I just did, like, as if I blacked out while I was painting. I'm like, wow, I did that. Oh. You know?
That's awesome.
So it seems like that I think one thing I picked up through this conversation a lot is that it seems like you have a really big emphasis on the process. Like, despite whether the why or the end goal, it just seems like you really love to make things. And
yeah,
even the learning process or the creating, do you feel like the process and the art making is more important than the finished piece in what you do?
I think so, because, like, it's just fun. It's just fun to just, like, make art for me. Like, I think that's why I'm so, like, unattached to, or, like, I have such a hard time seeing myself as an artist, because I think there's so much intention that goes with being an artist, you know, and selling your art and, you know, making yourself more known in that world. But for me, I just, like, I almost feel like I don't want to have labels. I just want to have fun. And I think that's where I see what you mean. Like, I emphasize so much in the process because I take the time to, like, just love it. I don't know. I feel so warm about thinking about that stuff.
That's so nice. See, to me, that makes you an artist. Like, that is what that is for me. That's my definition.
Yeah. It seems like you two relate even in the way that you make art, because even if yours, Theo, is more focused on expressing emotions or something, and Kat's is focused on storytelling and stuff, that I feel like it's just the angle is different, but it's both very much focused on communicating and processing and almost as if it's relating more towards a performance than it is to creating a product or branding or something. Like, it's like this emphasis on the art experience and instilling that and inspiring that in others.
Definitely. I think that's why, you know, like, collaborative efforts are very important. I think that getting into your creative communities are very important because we have so much to bring to the table. It's very much like music, you know?
Yeah.
In that way.
That's something, I don't know if I've talked about this in the podcast before, so just really briefly, because I don't want to derail this, but Kat, you are someone who, when me and Lindsay first started doing Virago meetings at my house, it was really awesome. Like, everybody was awesome. But you brought me to a meeting for Mind, My Ideas Never Die. And it was a very similar kind of thing of, like, essentially networking, but as visual artists. Or, I mean, I know Mind works with, like, models and photographers and stuff, too. But it was really cool, like, the idea that I haven't really encountered in a lot of other spaces of kind of that same approach, like you're saying, like musicians. A lot of visual artists, I feel like, are maybe not actively opposed to it, but it's just not a culture that's really facilitated. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I just noticed that we're like-minded in that sense at that point, which was really
definitely
cool.
It's essentially like using each other's resources,
yes.
to create something more than just something that you can create for yourself. And you're sharing that with your community, and you're inspiring your community in that way.
Yeah, and engaging in a community versus just working alone and uploading things for people to like and not really interacting with other people or absorbing anybody else's input.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Not to, like, shit on anybody. I did that for years and years and years, but I don't know. I feel like you can learn a lot. Like, I feel like I've learned a lot in this conversation. There are things that you've said today or that Brian said that I'm definitely going to be thinking about with my own process. And I think these kinds of conversations are so important.
Yeah, and I guess, and also thinking, do you think that with such a focus on collaboration or community or learning and borrowing from other people, have you been in isolation making art, or has the pandemic really influenced, I guess, your art making or changed it in that sense, or is it maybe even made it more about other people and storytelling?
I feel like it's made it more about other people than storytelling. Since the pandemic, I've been kind of in a rut,
Yeah.
But being able to see my friends on Instagram, that's my current platform of getting to see other people do their work. It brings back, that I'm also an artist, and, they're sharing their art with me, and I can still do that too while in the pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's really the important thing, is being able to talk and being able to see each other's work. So even if it isn't in person, I guess it is still there. Just a different way of doing it.
Yeah.
So, and you guys were both... Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
And you guys were both involved with Virago, right? Is that...
Yeah.
Is that how you guys met? Am I...
No, we both worked at the MFA first.
Yeah, I forgot. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So Virago was basically a collective that, I mean, me and my coworker and roommate at the time, Lindsay O'Connell, founded it technically, but it was kind of a collective that didn't really intentionally have any kind of leader or anything, where we all just met up, and essentially some of us were in art school, some of us weren't, some of us were employed at the museum, some of us were just friends of friends, but all of us were looking for a place, like you were talking about earlier, to critique each other's work, to get honest feedback, to skill share. And what we were running into was that full-time work schedules, limited income, just different... There were a lot of accessibility barriers, I guess, in the way. And our goal was to kind of try and level the playing field and, like, give each other access to maybe art history books or academic texts, or showing each other how to do something maybe you don't know how to do, all making work at the same time for a couple of hours. So I had a bunch of friends in the museum that were involved in it, but Kat was there from day one, I think also through remote arts too.
I tried it for a bit.
Yeah, well, it only lasted for a little while. I think we didn't know how to do Zoom yet, honestly.
Yeah, now it's like, I'm pretty sure if you were to do it now, it'd probably be the norm, just because, like, that's how I'm taking my classes now.
Yeah. At the time, it had this, like, creepy cloud over it where everyone was like, oh.
So it's just so much
anxiety. Yeah, it was definitely weird.
Yeah.
Wow.
Bad times.
Yeah, I'm, like, forced to stare at you as I'm also, like, painting. And you're forced to stare at me, and I'm like, I wish I could just be side by side rather than having to look right at you.
Yeah.
And there's also with Zoom, I read some articles about this too, but there was an unintentional lag in the program too that was only like, I'm pretty sure it's like a half a second of lag. So you always, every time I would Zoom with people or be in those situations, it was just everybody was interrupting each other by accident. Because that body language and that, I don't know how you would describe it, like the flow was just gone.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so much awkward nerves and like, because I think when you're looking at somebody and they're about to speak, you can see it. The way their whole position changes even slightly when they're about to open their mouth and start a new point.
Right.
So yeah, Zoom was tough.
Yeah.
Ugh.
But it's still cool. Like, even though it didn't really work out very well, and I mean, even Virago too, like that only lasted like 6 months or something in the essence of what it was. But I don't consider either of those things failures really, because it ended up connecting people that should be connected, I guess, which is the whole point.
Yeah, its legacy probably it will exist longer than the actual thing did.
Yeah.
I feel like that's my experience too with a lot of art communities I've been a part of. Some
Yeah.
of the most impactful things that happened to me were very small parts of my life,
Yeah.
but have lasted
Interesting.
very long. Ripples. That's
Yeah.
something.
I think.
Oh, go ahead, Kat.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I think that's, that's what's so essential about working together, and having that togetherness, is that the impact that it kind of like holds on you.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think that's the thing you remember more than anything. Like, I remember people who bought pieces from me, and I appreciate that forever, obviously, but people that are kind of willing to work with you through, like, somebody that you can message and be like, hey, I don't know if this looks good. Like, what do you think of this? Or, like, if you need an extra canvas and someone has one they're not going to use and they give it to you. Like, those kinds of things that facilitate your growth are things that you do for your friends, not for people you're marketing to. So
Right.
that's why it's so much more important to have a kind of humanity to it than just be a brand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a problem I've seen some people have too, where they kind of display success and a kind of power and a kind of brandedness and inhumanity almost by accident, that asking for help becomes kind of difficult.
Right.
And as if asking for help or resources would make you seem less legitimate or something, because a legitimate artist wouldn't have needed the help or something, which is bullshit.
Yeah.
I don't believe
Right.
that at all, but it's kind of a unfortunate
Yeah.
pitfall some people have with the way we're kind of asked and prompted to be online.
Well, it's interesting too, because this kind of branding stuff and the like focus on having this image or like putting the time into maintaining your work, aren't these the reasons, Kat, that you were saying that the label of artist is almost kind of uncomfortable for you?
I was just about to say, getting to see like how other people just are able to get their shit together and to like put up their website and, working for themselves, having their own printer and, knowing what the dimensions of their piece are going to be, how they're going to like sell it and, the canvas and like all this stuff. It was very stressful for me to be like, oh shit, I have to do that too.
Yeah.
Like in a way it like inspired me, but also put me in a box almost, like away from everybody else. Like, okay, like maybe it's too hard for me.
Well, that's really interesting, because I feel like, I don't know, this is my point of view, obviously. I'm sure there are people who disagree, but I feel like the stuff we were talking about before, that is kind of the essence of, like, I recognize that in you, definitely, and I have for a while, that, like, community focus, working on your art for the sake of just loving it and trying to constantly be a better version of yourself is almost more important, if not, it just actually is more important than the branding, because what are you marketing then if your work doesn't have that kind of tangible something to it,
Right. The authenticity
Yes.
of a person. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting because it's like, it's almost two opposing schools of thought. And I know talented people that do both things for sure. And like, I guess I have a foot on both sides of the line, I guess, but it's interesting because I completely agree with that. But I've never thought about it before with like labeling. Because that's the thing, I feel like you pick up on that when you talk to someone, like what kind of artist they are in that way. But
Right.
there's no name for it, really, I don't think, that I can think of.
No name for what specifically?
Being more marketing focused or kind of commodifying your work.
I think it's the intersection of being an artist and being an entrepreneur, or
Right.
an aspirational entrepreneur or something.
Yeah.
I also think that, because like, how, I don't know if this is you guys' experience, but I've known a lot of older artists that are like, you know, in their older 50 plus like range that don't even have a website or a social media at all, but they have tons of connections or gallery representation, or like they have a legitimate artistic network and life and career, but they don't even have anything. And that would used to baffle me, but like, I don't know. I think too. So I guess the point I was getting to as well is that I think that it's a generational thing in some ways too, where first off, there are a lot of older people not on social media, but I think people our age are more likely to be addicted to it.
Right.
So, and I think that because it's so ingrained in our social lives and in our mentalities and emotional selves, that why wouldn't we fuse that to our artistry? Or our careers or our friendships, you know what I mean? I think some of that, because for me, there never was a time where I decided that I'm going to be a brand. Or I'm going to be, I'm going to try to be famous now. Like, I think I've been doing that for as long as, like, from when I had a MySpace until now. I just, like, that was the thing to do. Was to have a social media and to acquire people on it. I never decided to do that. It's just what I've been doing, like, without really thinking about it. And it's only been like probably the last couple of years that I've become unwillingly kind of made aware of it. And like thinking like, shit, like I might literally be addicted to my phone or something, you know?
Well, it's funny too, because when you think about in the lens of like art history and like fine arts museums and things, like this is kind of a tired example, but I guess it fits here. Like Vincent van Gogh didn't know jack shit about how to sell his work. He died like he was in poverty, but he didn't die in poverty because of his brother, who after he died started marketing his work, and that's how he became famous. And it's like, I guess it is arguable that he would have been more successful financially if he had that skill set, but he didn't, and he didn't need to be an amazing artist. Like, the reason we know him and the reason we care about his work is the raw emotion and the expression, not the fact that he knew the dimensions or could sell it to the right people or even could talk to people in a way that was civil. Like, everyone kind of didn't like him from where he was from, but he still had that it factor, I guess.
Well, that's kind of an interesting thing too, because I would say that the idea of marketing and advertising is kind of a bastardized, downgraded craft or discipline and skill set in today's world, where there are people that go to school just as long as someone with an MFA goes to school to learn how to market and advertise. You know what I mean? And we're sitting, you know, we're hanging out like, why can't I have 1 million followers? Or why am I struggling to get clients? Or why am I struggling to advertise myself? And it's usually because it's almost like the conversation we were having about technical skill in art and shit that, where we have zero technical skill in advertising or fucking marketing. And we have no fucking budget either. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not like allocating thousands of dollars to fucking advertising myself. So I think, and that's kind of a trap too, because I mean, just like most people, I don't do it on purpose, but I inadvertently, you know, fuse my self-worth to my success all the time.
Yeah,
I don't want to,
I do
but
it too.
Yeah.
But in a sense, and when it comes to advertising and marketing, there are some instances where I am bound to fail.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of, because I'm just one person with an iPhone.
It's hard too with arts marketing, because I feel like if you're marketing a product or if you have a startup or something, you probably do feel these same feelings, but you're not putting your vulnerable emotions and like the things that you wouldn't just say to someone in conversation out there for anyone to look at and hope someone will purchase.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't work on this piece for 3 months and slave away over it and get all emotional over it for nobody to buy it for $20 on Etsy.
Dude. or when you do slave over it for that long and work so hard and then you do sell it for $20, it's crushing. You're like, this was really worth $20? This is fucking horrible. Like, I've sold shit where I just was forcing myself to sell it because for whatever reason, and I'm just like, fuck. Like, I'm a fucking idiot. Like, I'm undervaluing myself. Like this sucks.
Yeah.
I do that all the time.
They're
Like,
two
every
different...
time I tell something, that's how I feel usually.
Well, another thing I was going to say, too, is, like, I think when you're talking about those people that are maybe artists from an older generation that have a following, or people that just do it that way, that have a following without social media and without marketing and advertising and things, it's because of things like community building and having friends in high places and getting to know people and having people really invest in you as a person.
Yeah.
Right, networking.
Yeah, and authenticity, too.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you are just making a product, anybody can make a product, you know?
Right.
And I know people say this, too, about art, that anybody can make art, and they can, but I think what is competitive about it is how authentic your art is and how much it would resonate with the viewer.
And when they can see it, because, you know, thinking about it now, like, Instagram has been, like, kind of, like, essentially the hub of portfolios for everybody right now, you know, and it really depends on, like, how you go about that algorithm and, you know, how people are saving your posts or liking them or sharing them, you know, and it's really hard sometimes.
Yeah. And it's funny because it's almost... like, it creates this sort of illusion that some work is better than others or that it resonates more when really it might just be more, like, aesthetic for Instagram. Like, I've noticed my work that I do with, like, Sharpies, the black and white, like, scribbly drawings, those tend to do a lot better, but it's because there's a lot of work like that on Instagram that's similar. Some people that like those posts get my post recommended, probably. They just probably don't even see the other ones.
Yeah.
So, it's definitely interesting. New world post-pandemic.
Weird stuff.
Yeah. Huh.
Damn.
So, interesting. Do you think that kind of honing your skill set helps you build that authenticity in your work, Kat?
Yeah. It's kind of like what Brian was saying, like, about music, like, you know, because you have that technical skill in singing, like, you're able to expand more on how you go about a song or how you go about a genre, is because of your willingness to do so, your interest in to do so, your love to do so, your passion for it, in that sense.
Yeah.
You know, like, you want to be better, and while wanting to be better and getting that technical skill, you can share that more.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely true. Interesting. I feel like I agree with that, and in the past, I think I've actively opposed that and was very mad when people tried to help me with it. Like, if I was taking advice from someone else, it was compromising my authenticity for some reason, but...
I see.
Yeah, like you wanted to be
because then, like, in a way, it almost felt like it couldn't be yours.
Yeah, but it's so not true. Like, you can learn from other people in the same way that we learn to read and write or to talk or how to socialize with other people. It doesn't mean that you're taking on someone else's personality or way of being. You're just understanding more about the world.
Right.
So that's all really interesting to think about. Are there any projects that you're working on now or upcoming that are really exciting that you want to talk about?
I don't want to talk about it too much, but I am working on a magazine with Mind. We've been working on it for quite a while now.
That's exciting.
It's very exciting. I'm very excited for it. The theme is music. The last magazine was more about, like, art and architecture, so this one's more like art and music together. So it's a huge collaborative effort with you know, dancers and other illustrators that are locally based here in Massachusetts, and I'm very excited. I did have, like, a little snippet of what my piece would look like on Instagram, but I think I took it down, just, you know, be mysterious.
Yeah.
But I just finished, like, my artist statement and sent in my project, and now I'm just waiting for the finished product.
That's so exciting. Can you give a little bit of background on what Mind is for anybody that maybe isn't familiar?
So Mind is a local creative collective. Did I already say it was in Boston?
That's okay.
Their main goal, essentially, is to bring creatives together, you know, old, young, new, in the game, you know, and just sharing, like I said, the resources, bringing each other, like, to the table, and uplifting each other, making the community bigger and better, and making making it sustainable, like creating art a sustainable, possible thing. And I really didn't think it to be a possible thing to like want to like make art and sell it and live off of it if it weren't for Mind. You know, if it weren't for other people uplifting me too.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, building that community.
Yeah. It's really great. They're very loving. They're very supportive. You know, they're always welcoming to people who express interest and want to share what they've learned and what they love to do.
Yeah. That's so awesome. So it's a physical, like, paper magazine?
Yes. I'm not sure if it'll also be digital.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling it may be just because of the pandemic. I don't really have all my facts straight, actually, so let me just not say too much.
That's okay.
You know, but I'm very excited about it.
That's so cool. And you said you were doing illustrations for them?
Yes.
Or with them?
Yeah, I think this was my biggest illustration for them. My last one I did for, like, I think they had a newsletter, and that was my very first piece that I did for them. It kind of encapsulated that. It was like a dude who had a box of matches, and one of the matches were lit, and that kind of like symbolizes that, you know, the ideas are on. Yeah. You know, and I'm going to share those ideas with you.
That's really cool. That's awesome. I want to ask you more questions about the one that you're working on, but I'm not going to ruin the surprise. Do you know when that'll be?
Definitely be fun.
Yeah. Do you know when that'll be coming out?
They're closing in on it now. I think they're just doing the finishing touches. So hopefully soon. I don't really have a specific date, but hopefully this time this year.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, that's so exciting.
Yeah.
And then, are there any personal projects that you've been doing that, like, you want to talk about a little bit?
As in personal projects, like, right now, I don't have any other than the projects that I've been putting under the rug forever.
I feel that.
So, yeah, I'm like, okay, I've accumulated so much, like, almost, like, art creation debt that I need to figure that shit out. So,
yeah.
The sole goal of that is, like, once I have those ideas finished and ready, like, I do want to sell them. I just recently got a printer. Thor bought me a printer.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm just going to play around with it. I recently did commissions for someone in California. Like, I drew a dog for the first time. I did not know how to draw a dog.
That's so hard to do.
They're very, very hard to do. Like, he was a pit bull, so, like, you know, they're very muscular, like, you know, serious-looking dogs, and I felt like I was messing up every time. But, you know, back to doing the technical skill and the figure drawing, if I didn't have that, then I wouldn't have been able to draw the dog.
Yeah.
So that was my very first commission, like, you know, printing it and then sending that to somebody, and that was such a huge accomplishment for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. That can be so difficult. I've had trouble with that in recent history, just, like, finding a way to print my pieces that doesn't look horrible. Like, not putting it on printer paper or something, you know? So, was that a digital piece, or was that, like, did you say that was a painting?
It was a digital piece.
Nice.
My printer has a scanner too, so I think I'm going to play around with the things that I have that are physical, and then make copies of those to sell.
Yeah, that's awesome. Will you be doing that probably over your Instagram and stuff in the future?
Yeah, most likely.
That's so exciting. I can't wait to see.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Wow. Hell yeah, this has been a ton of fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any other questions that I might have.
I'm sure we'll think of a whole bunch once this is over, which sucks. That's the thing, too, is that it's so, like, these conversations can be infinite, and that's, like, why they're so wonderful, you know?
Yeah.
To just actually connect and learn from other artists that are, you know, in such, you know, like, on completely different, like, wavelengths, you know what I mean? Like, in a good way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because, like, especially, you know, with the way things are right now, it's so easy to get so insulated in your own mind or in your own circle that it's like euphoric to have a new perspective.
Yeah.
You know, that isn't from a podcast or a fucking Instagram post or something, you know, that's just hearing somebody and what they're doing.
Even though we're putting this in a podcast and an Instagram post.
Holy shit. Oh, God. But I'm having this beautiful, authentic experience. The listeners
Sorry.
are not. Sorry, guys. You'll have to go have your own phone call with another person. Wow. That's kind of fucked up.
Having like a meta moment over there.
Okay, well, the poet's job, this is a quote that I'm stealing, I forget where, isn't to live the poetic experience. It's to create the poetic experience for other people.
True.
So maybe that's kind of what we're doing here.
Yeah. Thank you, Kat, for your insights.
I forget who said that. Anyway.
No, it's my pleasure. Thanks for, being so patient with me.
Oh my gosh, no. This is a great conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, I've been so nervous.
Yeah, and you're our first real guest.
Yeah, we were nervous too.
Yeah, so this has been an awesome experience for us too. So
yeah,
you guys have done a really great job.
Oh, thank you.
You guys made me feel really comfortable. So
great.
I'm glad.
We tried to put an emphasis on that to make sure it went well.
We were literally practicing. We were practicing for like half an hour before we started recording.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Good thing. Oh, that's so funny because I was also doing the same thing. So,
oh my gosh. That's really cute.
All around. That's
we're all learning.
We're all learning. Yeah.
Wow.
I think that's the best part of interacting with other artists is realizing that it's kind of okay because we're all just kind of we're kids that paint.
And we're all inhabiting a world that has existed for like 1,000 years longer than we've been alive.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like we're getting in, we're like jumping in, and we get a short time here, and
yeah.
So why spend that time, being afraid?
Yeah.
That we don't know what we're doing.
And to be authentic.
I bet Da Vinci didn't know what the fuck he was doing.
He probably was. He seemed confident. I don't know about him. But he invented like helicopters.
Socially, he was probably like, you know what I mean?
True, yeah.
Whatever.
No, though, to be authentic and to be creating things and put them out in the world for other people to look at and potentially judge is brave and courageous, honestly. And I'd give props to anybody who does that.
Yeah.
So... yeah, thank you so much for being vulnerable with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course, likewise. I would give you hugs if I could.
For sure.
Yeah.
Us too. And where can the people listening find your art, or where should they look you up?
They could definitely look me up at Instagram. It's Kapikawa, Kappikawa.
Nice.
Awesome. And we'll put that in the description for all you folks at home.
I just remembered one quick question as a PS. Does Kapikawa mean something?
Not really. So Cappy just came from a nickname I was called when I was younger.
Oh.
Yeah, and then Kawa is just river in Japanese.
Oh, that's so cute.
So yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, that's how that came together. So I just rolled with it. Like, okay.
Nice.
Kind of cool.
That's basically how I became Earthworms, too. It was just a thing I did one day.
Right. And like, why not?
Yeah.
Make it yours.
I love that. I've just been curious about that forever and keep forgetting to ask. Awesome. Well, I'll put some of your art pieces in the post. If you have anything you want us to put up there, just let me know and I'll repost it. And we'll tag you and everything so everyone can find your work and see more about who you are.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you for having me.
Tk you so much for being here.
All right. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And we'll let you know when this airs.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ooh, that was fun.
That was great.
Thanks for listening, everybody. This has been the Boston Art Podcast. Bye.
Bye.